In case you're wondering, hey, what's he here to talk about again? Elections are over, yes. Don't forget, for as long as you are a public official, you are a public servant one way or the other, and that is why we're here to discuss how we can get governance right, because, hey, we need all hands on deck to ensure that we bring down the cost of living. What are some of his own ideas? Let's speak with him this morning. Vadebo Road Survivor, Labour Party governorship candidate for Lagos State in the 2023 elections. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let me begin by asking you, because I know that you must have quite a number of people who look up to you and who are wondering, okay, what's going on really? How are you receiving all that is going on in the polity in Nigeria today? Well,
first, it's about trying to understand how so many people are able to make a living, to survive, to eat, with the harsh economic realities that we are now facing, based on policies that I feel were not well thought out. At least the impact that will have on the common man was not well thought out. And like the report that I was just talking about yesterday, my heart goes out to people that have to buy inhalers and asthma medication right now, or people that just need to get medicines. These things have gone up significantly. People are barely able to eat once a day now. But other than that, we keep trying to help as much as we can. We have a health insurance package that we're giving to communities to sort of help them at this point of time. Whatever thing you can do to help in your capacity, you do. And keep trying to push the idea of hope. Right? A nation's journey does not just start and end in 4 years. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Our spirits must not be broken. We must continue to see democracy as a way to actually get in people that we feel will push our interests and Nigeria and Lagos, to a better place. So those are my positions in relation to how we deal with all of this and help any way that we can.
One of the angles to that, and interestingly so, is this thing that a number of people, even, government officials, even, ordinary Nigerians, specialists, and leaders of thought in their own right have said, the fact that even we ourselves, you have spoken about what you are doing as an individual, not a government official, intervening. But then there is also the situation where people do whatever they can to take advantage of other people, raising the prices of whatever, simply because of the economic realities. How do we preach empathy in that kind of situation?
First, I believe that the government has to lead by gaining trust of the people. The government must show that they have empathy and they show an understanding of the suffering that people are dealing with. It's very bad political optics for a government to understand the difficult financial situation it's in and then spend so much money buying luxury cars for themselves, for the First Lady, renovating the Presidential Lodge. Meanwhile, there's a building that is on Bodilon and Queen's Drive, right? This is not showing that we feel the suffering that you are feeling.
I'm not sure you're getting my question. The question is about the ordinary Nigerians who exploit ordinary Nigerians as well.
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. You see, everything that you see at the grassroots, right, is reflecting what is happening at the top. If a people feel that what is celebrated is a shakedown, is taken from people without adding value, you see that trickle all the way down. Now, I understand what you're saying, because people will say, what is the input in corn on a farm in somewhere in Ogun State? How does dollar affect it? Right? But then those people also tell you that they're paying for a lot of things, that the prices are going up, whether it is kerosene for their cooking, whether it is fuel, whether it is diesel, and things that have generally gone up. But you see what the main issue is a lack of trust in the system. So people are panicking. And when people panic, they start to create disruptions in the economic fabric that, causes this kind of situation where inflation is galloping. But if people had trust and faith in the government, and I'm saying that the government can earn that trust and faith if they also show that they understand the suffering. It's almost, there's a very big disconnect when you see the entourages that they fly with, when you see the son of the president using the presidential jet to go and watch polo. It just shows a very significant disconnect. And that is why you're seeing what you're seeing, in my opinion. Now, if you want me to tighten my belt, I would like you, my leader, to also tighten your belt. I would like to see you driving made in Nigeria cars. to encourage me to also buy made in Nigeria cars. And then this will also then reduce our foreign, our monies that are taking capital flight because of imports.
Well, you know, the challenges are many. And just recently, again, we've seen that a number of people in different communities of the nation, we've heard of one or two places, including FCT just recently, people going to warehouses of governments to loot,
yes,
you know, because they are hungry and all of those things. I don't know who to speak with or what to speak with. From your understanding, what should be the process of disbursing such things so that
yes,
people don't get to that point?
Yes. So thank you so much for that question. You see, I think that even when customs announced that we're going to give rice in Lagos State and some people were stampeded and some people died, when a people fear that there is not enough, that is when they start to behave in these ways. For instance, if you're at a party and you know that you're going to get rice, you're not going to get up to go and be struggling for rice. You know that it's going to be served to everybody. And that's where systems come in and working with and planning properly and working with local organizations. There are churches that are constantly giving out food every Sunday. The Muslim Ummah is giving out food regularly and supporting people. Right? And they are doing these in communities. So distribution must be at the community level, right? So that first you are dealing with fewer people at every point in time. And these people are dealing with people that they know and they trust. And so when I started, I said the idea of palliatives and how people will cope with this situation when you change policy was not well thought out. And for me, I feel that if you can get distribution done at community levels, right, it will be a lot more effective and you start to see these things less. Now, the idea that somebody is going and jumping over a roof and breaking through is looting, and it's not something we should encourage by any means. But the government also has a role to play, first in securing those locations, and two, in creating because you saw what happened during COVID, where politicians were hoarding some of these palliatives that were planning to use in campaigns. All these things are playing out in Nigeria's subconscious. So when they know that there's food stored somewhere, they are thinking one politician might go and corner this thing. Let us go and get it first. So it goes back to the idea that there is no trust, right?
So how do we build that trust?
Yeah.
I'm asking you because as we, had that conversation before we came on air, you represent quite a significant chunk of people.
Yeah.
And they have a rhetoric that a number of people would feel is not patriotic. To build trust, to build patriotism, to build confidence of the people, it all takes communication.
Exactly.
Now, how should that communication be happening?
Yeah.
So that the trust can return, so that people can begin to believe again, and as you said, have hope in the nation.
So first of all, it's not just about communication, it's the truth. We have, in the last 2 election cycles, there's been a lot of propaganda, a lot of lies that have been spun just to pull, the hood over the people's eyes. And then eventually people see the truth. And that then removes or reduces people's integrity or the perception of integrity in any government. So if you want to start to build that trust back, you need to start telling the truth. You also need to start showing empathy, show a real connection with what is really going on the ground. Not just for the big portfolio investors, not just for the people that you want to bring dollars into the economy, but the people, your people that gave you that mandate in the first place. You must do that. Secondly, you must go down to community levels. It's not enough for one minister to just have this big money in Abuja to share. No, it must come down to the local churches, the local mosques, the local community leaders, the local organizations, right? And have them work hand in hand and look at all the people that have already been doing it. I participated in a walk in Esaleko, I think it was 2 Saturdays ago. I was just walking by chance and there was a lady there that was giving out money to widows and support to widows. She's been doing this regardless of government help or government support. She was just doing it. Now, you look and identify those people. right? And work with people like that. So those who already have the trust of the people, right? So then that's how you start to build this trust. It's not happen overnight. But if you are serious about it and know how important it is, then you would have to apply yourself to it.
And I like the angle that you just spoke to now, to identify people who do these things without any political interests or affiliations. But then there's usually that talk of hijack. For instance, in your party, there is that allegation that some official, the chairman of the party, hijacked some resources and all of those things. So if we kind of bring that into this kind of conversation, okay, well, if you can't trust this person, with this kind of money, how can we trust him to help us do the right things that you are saying there? So how do we depoliticize such goodwill initiatives for the people?
So I will commend Governor Sanwo-Olu on his recent, there was something he announced a stakeholder sort of group that would advise him on how they will manage palliatives in Lagos State. He had the House of Rep member from Labour Party in it. He had a group of people with multiple interests. Now, whether the advice will be taken, whether that is for surface, I don't know. But it's that's the kind of way to go. But the bigger thing is to get down to the community so that nobody is dealing with any big money to hijack, right? So you're looking at a ward, you're looking at the people in those wards that have been doing these things. Now, also, it's not going to be perfect. Unfortunately, like we talked about before this thing, there's been a whole amount of years that people have started to steal money and get away with it. They steal money, they travel abroad, they are rewarded with ambassadorial positions. There's all sorts. But now we must start to find these people. And then there must now be a real feedback loop where if you do not use this money for what you're supposed to use it for, there are real consequences. And that's how you build trust over time.
Well, to that, and I'm glad that you talked about, what, some politician is doing to intervene. You see, I'm asking you questions about nationhood because if it doesn't work in Niger State, there is a good chance that some of them would come to your own state as well, and all of those things. So, so let's talk to Lagos State. Lagos State has arguably one of the most active populations in the country. And even though you have commended what the governor is doing in a particular direction, there are those who would also speak to the need for the other staff of the people, the chairman of the local government, the councillor, the member of the House of Assembly in each of the local government and communities in the nation, the senator that is gone to Abuja to represent them, the members of the House of Representatives that's going to represent them. Don't they have an intervention, some kind of intervention responsibility to ensure that at least we can ameliorate the pains that the people are going through?
Most certainly, and this also speaks to the root cause of a problem. If a local government chairman does not get into position because he was able to sell a vision to the people, and he's just put in that place, he is not going to function in the interest of the people. He will function in the interest of the people that put him there, right? And this has plagued Lagos State for a very long time. The local government chairman, the first time I got in politics, I ran for local government chairman of Ikeja, local government. The local government chairman is the closest person to you that can make a difference to your life, right, in your immediate environment. Most people don't know the names of their local government chairman. Right, because they have really been ineffective and they don't come around selling themselves and selling their vision.
How about those who also believe that it's because they themselves, their powers have been arm twisted, so to speak?
Of course. And that's also because they are in a party that is the way things are done.
Is it a function of the party or the fact that that's the way it is in the country and it's just showing up in different parts of the nation?
Okay, so how something is in a country is how people have accepted it over a period of time. So people might resist it, but people have accepted that, okay, this is how it is done. We'll have a local government election and it's just going to be written, right? But there are people that have also pushed back. Now, in the event that somebody from a different kind of thought process emerges, they will do things differently. And that's why I talk about the party. But back to your question, local government, the councillors, all have, because like we were talking about, it's about those communities at that local level all have a part to play in interventions, and they should have the trust of their people, right? They should have the trust of their people. They should know people on one-on-one basis, on name recognition, name basis. And these are people that can actually get the job done and have the job go very deep in communities, especially to ameliorate the suffering that people are dealing with.
Okay. I have a few other things to raise with you, but my colleague Kayla has a question for you. Go ahead, Kayla.
Yes, indeed. You know, I wanted to be able to talk a lot about this palliative situation with Mr. Badegbo. You know, this conversation about moving palliative distribution. Let's just be clear, palliatives are here to stay. It's going to be happening as long as we are navigating this rough economic climate. But you know, how it's supposed to be disbursed, and that's a very big issue that a lot of people have been weighing in on. And I heard you just talk about the fact that it should be done at community level. Some people believe that you should use the local government system to distribute these palliatives. But you've mentioned, you know, picking up on, you know, well-meaning individuals and using churches and you know, those kinds of institutions to be able to get these palliatives out of there. But I didn't get your answer to that question really about capture. You see, things are never how they look. And as long as there is interest in something, politicians will want to use it. How do we ensure, if for instance, we decide to use religious institutions, as you have mentioned, to distribute palliatives at local levels to make sure that those who need them actually get them, how do we ensure that politicians and people who are not well-meaning individuals don't capture this process?
Okay, so I feel that one of the solutions to that is openness and transparency. And that's why communication matters, and communication at that nitty-gritty level. So foods are coming into local government, foods are coming into churches in that particular community. The government and the government's apparatus in those communities are communicating to the people, communicating to the CDA chairman, communicating to the societies there, having stakeholder meetings and telling them exactly how much proceeds are coming in to that particular community, where it is, how it's going to be disbursed, a timetable for disbursement. You can say, okay, for this particular, in this ward, in this section of people are going to come and get their disbursement, and later on this section will come and get their disbursement. A very organized and detailed approach is things that will remove that shroud that allows for people to be able to steal without any consequence. Another thing is to not only name and shame, but create consequences, real consequences for people that are going to deprive the masses of this kind of interventions that can ameliorate the current state of affairs in the country. I think it's not going to be perfect at first, but moving along these lines will make a significant difference, and to avoid situations where people are congregating in huge amounts at one central location, and then stampedes and people are getting killed, or they are invading warehouses and stealing food.
I mean, I wanted to bring that to you as well, because that's something that was touched on in your conversation there. The Gwagwa Tesha warehouse that was looted. In fact, the Minister of State for the FCT actually said it plain blank. She said this has nothing to do with hunger. What are they stealing doors for? They stole doors and roofing sheets and even the gate to the warehouse. So, and it was important to hear you say there that hunger is not an excuse for lawlessness. But I wanted to be able to get your views on other things. You still are a member of the Labour Party, and I wanted to find out what your relationship is with the party, with everything that we're hearing right now, accountability being one of the issues being addressed right now by your party. What do you make of that situation? And, you know, what side of the divide really do you fall on right now?
I think it's a wonderful situation, because that's what we preach. That's what His Excellency Peter Obi preached: transparency and accountability. The fact that people are, you know, bringing that to the table, bringing that to the fore, and that conversation is ongoing, is a reflection of the kind of people, the quality of people that are in the party. You'll find that that's not really the situation that's happening in other parties. They've just gotten on with it, even though similar things might have happened in those parties. But we welcome transparency, inquisitions, and it will only make the party better, it will only make the party stronger.
There was a headline attributed to you recently, in fact, I think it was just yesterday. The headline talked about your criticism of the Red Line Rail project. Is there any truth to that story? And of course, the story also says that the governor of Lagos State said you were spreading false information about who started this Red Line Rail project. Could you maybe clarify, give us some sort of clarification on this story?
Okay, thank you. So the point that we're trying to bring is to allow for Lagosians to not be distracted and to understand what is truly happening with their commonwealth. It has taken 16 years to get 16 kilometers of rail. That's the blue line. The contract was signed for about 27 to 29 kilometers. It was stopped short at 16 kilometers, right? The government, by their own plan, over the last 17, 18 years, is supposed to have a total of about 175 kilometers. They've barely done 10% of that in 16 years. Now, the red line, the actual track, because Lagos State signed a sharing agreement with this standard gauge line with the federal government. And we're saying that we're interested in the amount of track Lagos needs to build for the state to work properly. And the cost at which is building these things per kilometer. If the blue line is taking 16 years to do, how many years is it going to take 160 kilometers to be done, right? And while we applaud them for their intervention with the federal government and the stations that they've built, let us not rest on mediocrity. Mediocre people will never be great. They will always keep sliding. So yes, we can be happy that this has been done. We also acknowledge that they are sharing that track, but we need Lagos State to lay its tracks based on the plans that it has. And if they see they do not have the capacity to do it, they should invite the private sector to come in and do these projects, right? The state itself does not have to carry the financial burden if they are not up to the task. Because 16 years to deliver 16 kilometers of rail is a failure anywhere in the world. It's an absolute failure. And unfortunately, we have come to a state as Nigerians where we just accept any level of mediocrity, right? Ethiopia is building 37.5 kilometers of rail in 3 years. High-speed trains, not trams, right? So the conversation that we're trying to put forward was to align Lagosians with the idea that, listen, you need 170 kilometers of rail based on the APC's own plan, right? You've gotten 16 kilometers of it and a shared conduit with the federal government, which is the red line, but you still need so much more. And we need the government to sit up and start to deliver these lines in record time. If they do not have the financial capacity to do it as themselves, let the private sector come in. I've sat down with private sector individuals that have approached the state government to do these lines, but they were rebuffed because they could not offer equity to the individuals in the government or whatever reason, right? So we need an open, transparent system that says, okay, we do not have the capacity to do this. It's taking too long. The 20 million residents of Lagos State need an effective network of rail connecting them, and we're going to open it up to do things in a quick way.
Well, Kayla,
I mean, that conversation about trust in the system, Ayo, Ayo, you can go on. I want to, get you to talk about that again. The trust in the system and the need for patriotism is a very dicey line that the Nigerian is walking right now. Lack of trust in the system, and then calls to be patriotic. How do we navigate that?
Well, it's certainly something for you. I think we spoke about that earlier.
We did.
Yeah. Okay. So, trust in the system will now be a lot more on the young people.
Yeah.
Information is an instrument of building that trust.
Yeah.
Now, there is also the Official Secrets Act. There is information that people should not have for the sake of security. Now, in your opinion, how should government balance those skills?
in terms of information, the government has a right to its secrets that can allow for its protection, and we must see that the government is effectively trying to protect the citizenry. But I still feel that it's not so much rocket science. There's a process of register to get your PVC and get your voters cards. The government should be more transparent with that. If you're talking about winning young people over, let them register, let them be able to come and get their voters cards without problem. Don't be saying these people from this part of society or the country cannot get their voters cards, meanwhile these people can, or all sorts of arrangements that create controversy, create things that take away from trust of the government, right? Have transparent elections, right? So I'm not just talking about this government now, I'm talking about on the long run. Because now you have people that are going to be turning 18, right? You have a new generation coming. I'm going to be 41 this week. There's already like 2 sets coming behind me. So to win them over, because this is the issue. By 2050, our population is most likely going to be double. From a selfish point of view, Lagos State's population is going to double. And this is predominantly a lot of young people. If you cannot create a productive, efficient country by then, you are sitting on a keg of gunpowder, right? That allows for social unrest. So we must gain their trust. We must gain their, and also think about how many young people are selling everything they have and leaving the country. All that is also affecting the value of your currency. Right?
You know, it's a long conversation, really, and I really wish we had more time to really dwell on this. But most certainly, it's been a good one.
Thank you.
We can only believe that more and better will be done by us, because no one will come. We don't need expatriates to build Nigeria. It's us.
And we don't need to recolonize. They're already having those ideas.
Gbadebo Rhodes Vival, Lagos Labour Party governorship candidate in Lagos State during the 2023 elections. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for your time. Truly wonderful to have you. Well, we've seen some of your messages, Imonoka and Akeda, as well as a number of other people who have sent me. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful day.
And I am Kayla Megwa. Have a wonderful day as well. Remember to, make sure you are kept away from all of the dust if you are in the FCT. But definitely have a wonderful day ahead.